Hey everybody, this is Phil from Alabama Hot Sauce. I'm back in the kitchen with you today. And today we're going to do a very interesting little pepper project. We've been fermenting peppers, and I've been fermenting peppers for months and months and months. I've been making a lot of sauce, but today we're going to take a ferment and we're going to turn it into a wonderful hot sauce. Now, I don't know exactly what kind of hot sauce it's going to be because the ferment was very experimental. What I've got here is I've got a jar that contains jalapeno slices, carrots, pineapples, peach juice, just a very little bit of peach juice, black peppercorns, and a little bit of white pepper. So I don't have a clue how this is going to turn out, but we're getting ready to see. What we're going to do is we're going to blend this up. I'm going to taste it. I'm going to make whatever additions are necessary. You can see right here I've got all my spices out. I've got xanthan gum out. I've got all my bottles here. Like always, everything's been sterilized. Everything's been cleaned. But before we get started, as you know, I like to spray things with this Star San sanitizer. So I'm spraying the things that have been sitting out a little bit since I prepared about an hour ago. The bottles have been sterilized. They've been sprayed with Star San. Now what's interesting, because of the technique we use to fill the bottles, the FDA says the bottles don't even need to be washed when they come to the factory. They don't need to be sterilized because we're actually going to sterilize the bottles in the filling process. Now, today I'm going to take in a little deeper, a little more detail on some facets of safety in making hot sauce. If we were to take a pepper or a tomato or a piece of meat and lay it out on the counter, room temperature, no protection, it would move from fresh to completely spoiled very, very quickly. Now, the reason it would do that is there's nothing in between the journey from fresh to spoiled to stop that process. There's nothing to stop microorganisms. There's nothing to stop taking on a moisture in the vegetable. So it's going to go to rotten in a very short period of time. Now, we know we could put a little hurdle in the path of going from fresh to rotten. We could stick that vegetable, that piece of meat in the refrigerator. Now, in the refrigerator, it's still going to spoil, but it'll take much, much longer. And the reason is because we put a hurdle in the course from fresh to spoiled. And that hurdle is actually a scientific approach to keeping food from spoiling. As a matter of fact, here at Alabama Hot Sauce, I use what's known as hurdle technology to keep my sauces absolutely clean and fresh. And so I have a number of hurdles. There's literally, I think it's 13 of them in my process that prevent my very fresh peppers from spoiling for years and years and years once we turn them into hot sauce. I think what I'll do sometime in the coming up future is I'll make a special video about this hurdle technology because I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll be surprised at how important some of the hurdles are. Some provide more protection, some provide less protection. So you might hear me mention hurdles today as I'm processing this. Now, so another thing I want to talk to you about. Jalapenos, as we all know, have a history of sometimes being quite mild and sometimes being ridiculously hot. Now, I've got one jalapeno out here. I brought out of a bag I'm processing next week. And I want to show it to you because this jalapeno is absolutely beautiful. Does not have a single flaw on it. I can look at this jalapeno and tell it was grown in a greenhouse. Now, jalapeno peppers that are completely flawless like this, believe it or not, tend to be quite mild. As a matter of fact, they tend to be in the 2,000 to 3,000 Scoville heat unit area. I know you've all seen this with jalapenos, but sometimes you see a jalapeno that has these bright white lines down it, zigzaggedy lines. As a matter of fact, it looks like it's a bad jalapeno, but that's called corking. And on a jalapeno, corking occurs when the pepper is stressed. And even though the food scientists are not positive why, they know that stress, as indicated by the presence of corking, makes the jalapenos hot. So, I will tell you that this jar that I've got here, full of chipped up jalapenos, these peppers were extremely corked. There was not a single one that had more than a distance of a ½ inch anywhere on the skin that didn't have the white lines. So I anticipate this particular mixture to be quite hot. I will bet you that these jalapenos are in the range of 8,000 to 10,000 Scoville units. As a matter of fact, I tasted one yesterday from another batch, started the same day, came from the same lot, and it was really, really, really hot. So I think what we're going to have today, when I look at the ingredients in this, we're going to have a pretty sweet and a pretty hot pepper sauce. Now, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to drain, I'm going to open up this jar of pepper sauce, and I'm going to drain the vast majority of this juice out of this sauce. Now, there's something else I'll tell you about this particular jar. This is vacuum fermented. You've seen me do it in some other videos if you've watched them. What's done a little different in this one, typically I vacuum the air out of the headspace. I let the fermentation process produce the carbon dioxide, fill up the headspace, which basically eliminates the vacuum and builds up a positive pressure, and then that pressure exhausts out the valve when necessary. In this particular ferment, every single day since it was put up 102 days ago, I've come to it and I've drawn all with carbon dioxide after a couple of days out of it. So this particular ferment has constantly been under a vacuum. As a matter of fact, I bet you when we open it, if we're real quiet, we'll hear it. So let's see what we got here. Oh, I heard it. Now, I'm going to reach down. Oh, guys, this smells so good. I wish you could smell it. I'm going to reach down in here and pull out something that's another piece of my hurdle technology. People that ferment try to come up with a weight system that you can put in these ferments to keep the pepper below the brine line. That's what makes them safest. If they come above it, I think you've heard me tell you, they can easily grow common yeast. In addition to that, they can grow mold and other things. So I've experimented with a lot of things. What we have here is this is a vacuumed bag full of marbles. I thought this would be a great idea because I can shape it down around the top of those peppers. And I will tell you, in 100 and some odd days, not a single pepper's floated out above the water here. So this is a great way to do things. Maybe I'll put a little video on why this works one day too. So I'm going to get rid of that little bag of marbles. And I'm going to pour out the brine out of this jar. Oh, I cannot tell you how good this smells. This is unbelievable, folks. Now, I'm very interested to see what the pH got to in this ferment. So I'm going to take my little scooper here. Scoop out just a little bit of this brine. Where did my pH tester go? All right, now I got my pH tester. We're gonna come in here and see what the pH is of this brine. All right, we've got a pH of 3.2, which is absolutely fabulous. I thought it would be pretty high because the sugar in this pineapple gave that lactobacillus a lot of fuel. So this ferment worked really, really hard for far more days than it would have if we hadn't put the pineapple in there. So that's a wonderful pH. A pH like that, this stuff is absolutely completely safe. Nothing can grow in a pH of 3.2. Now, I'm going to set this aside because we're going to use some of this in the mixing of this sauce. Now I'm going to bring out our Vitamix here. Remove the top. And we're going to begin to put some of this fermented pepper in here. Oh, this looks so good. There's the carrots coming out. Now we got pineapple coming out. I'm so tempted just to taste this, but I can't do that. Now this is going to be a little bit loud. We're going to process this up a little bit. Sorry about the noise, folks. Now, oh, this smells so good. Now, what I like to do to make sure that I'm tasting consistent every time, I'm just going to take this spoon with the concave part facing down. I'm going to stick it down in this pepper sauce and bring it out, and I'm going to taste whatever's on that spoon. Oh, just what I thought. This is pretty hot. This stuff is really hot. That's great. I can tell it needs a little bit of black pepper. I think it needs a little bit of salt. And I think it probably needs a little bit of cumin. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get these things. Now remember, we're totally guessing here at this point. What I'm going to do is first, I'm going to put in about Get my measuring right here. That's about 6 grams of mustard powder. Now, I'm going to put in here about 6 grams of ginger. Now remember, folks, I'm completely guessing here. I'm going by taste, by what I remember, what it takes to change sauces. And I'm going to write all this down because I want to be able to repeat this if it's good. That's a little bit of paprika. And I'm going to put some cayenne pepper. Even though this is already really hot, I want to give it a little upfront punch. And nothing does that better than powdered cayenne pepper. There we go. Now, mixing up really good. Grinding everything in there down, just completely pulverized, as smooth as glass. Now we're going to go back to the brine, and I'm going to put about 225 milliliters, which is close to a cup. There we go. All right, here we go again, blending. Smelling good. This is going to be wonderful. Now, I'm going to get another spoon, and I'm going to go in and taste again. That is very spicy, very hot. It's really sour because of that great fermentation, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some fresh honey in this thing. And I'm also going to put in a little bit of white processed sugar. course, we all know this is a slow process. And there's a tablespoon of sugar. All right, let's see where we are now. All right, taste test time. Let's see here. That still needs a little more sugar. Sugar, by the way, is a very common ingredient in hot sauces. Almost all of them have sugar in it. Now let's see what we do here. All right. One more spoon. That tastes quite good. So I'm ready to add the very last thing, which is going to cap this off perfectly, is apple cider vinegar. There's 1 cup. And we'll blend her up again. This ought to be about it. That tastes good. It still, I think, needs some more sugar. We're having to overcome a whole lot of acidity here, so I'm not much surprised at this. This is probably going to make it just right. All right. Perfect. What this has is the first thing that hits you is that sour taste. Then you get the sweet. Then in the middle of your tongue, you get the hot. And I will tell you, this is hotter than 2,000 or 3,000 Scoville units. These were very, very hot peppers. I can taste the pineapple in there. I can definitely taste the black pepper. I can clearly taste the cumin, the paprika. One thing I don't think it has quite enough, I don't quite taste as much salt as I would expect. What I may do, let me see if this makes a big change, because I think it might. I'm going to add a little salt to this. There we go, that's 25 grams. I think that'll do it. Now, this time when we turn the blender on, we're going to do something pretty unique. This blender turns at about 30,000 RPMs. And it has fairly blunt blades made for pulverizing anything you put in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to run it for 8 or 9 minutes on the highest speed. When I do that, it's going to raise the temperature of this sauce up to about 190 or 195 degrees. Our pasteurization temperature is 180 degrees. So what we're going to do, without ever putting this sauce on a burner or on a fire, I'm going to heat it to the pasteurization temperature, strictly using friction. I'm then going to immediately pour it in the bottles for our hot fill, because 180 degrees is also our hot fill temperature, and put the caps on it. When it cools down, it'll draw a vacuum in that bottle, and it's going to be a perfectly safe bottle with an extremely long shelf life. So, here we go. Now I'm going to cut this off, and I'll come back to you when we get this thing hot enough. Come on up here. Here we go. 189 degrees. That is perfect. Now what we're going to do, we're going to pour some of this sauce in this mixing container and start hot bottling. Now we fill this up completely to the top, because when it cools, we want it to pull a vacuum in that jar, and it'll be sealed forever until some lucky rascal opens it up and eats it. Now you also noticed that I flipped that bottle over when I put it back into carton. That is actually a part of the FDA hot fill and hold process. You flip it over so that this hot sauce will get on the neck and the top of the cap, and it will also be sanitized with this hot fill and hold. All right. Now, when we do this in our commercial kitchen for the hot sauces we're selling, we use an automatic filling machine to do this. Well, it's not automatic, it's actually a hand-operated machine. But you pour the pepper sauce in a vat, you pull the lever, and it dispenses exactly 5 ounces of hot sauce. So that's a pretty cool way to do it. But when we're only talking about 15 or 20 bottles like you're at home, much easier to do it this way. Stuff is still steaming hot. Now, well, I got one cross threaded there. Now, I haven't printed the labels for these bottles yet because since I did some additions in the blending, I did not know exactly what was in it so I could calculate the proper nutrition label. Now, these sauces will probably not be sold. They'll probably be used for taste testing. If they are sold, they would be, I would sell them under the cottage food law, which doesn't actually require the nutritional label. But I like to put it on everything. And anytime I make a change in any ingredient, I recalculate it. I think some folks might be tempted to occasionally cheat a little bit on that process. But I don't like the idea of doing that. I recalculate it every time using a computer program called Recipal. And Recipal has built in its database nearly 150,000 ingredients and brands of ingredients. And so you go in and you put in your exact measurements for what you put in your sauce, the size of the batch, the size of the serving. Recipal computes, prints out, and designs a FDA-approved nutrition label. A lot of people think that nutrition labels are a result of testing the food. They're actually not. They're simply a calculation based on the known nutritional data of all the components. Now, we got exactly a dozen bottles of sauce out of that, which these will sit upside down for another 10 or 15 minutes. I'll then seal the bottom of the box, turn them upright, and they'll sit out here on the counter and they'll cool down to room temperature. Because of the low pH, and because of the hot filling, and because of the sterilizing of all the implements that we used, this hot sauce is going to be shelf stable for literally years. So this is the way to do it. There's no better way to make safe food than making it with fermentation. There's no better attribute for safe food to have than low pH. And so this is going to be absolutely wonderful. I want to thank you folks for joining me today in the kitchen. I'm sorry if this is a little haphazard. I had to step out of the screen a few times and get things, but hey, I'm getting better at this. And I appreciate you coming. Next time we're going to be filming making hot sauce out of this beautiful, extremely hot red chili pepper mash. So thank you for coming. If you don't mind, I please would like it if you would subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate it if you'd watch the video right up here. In addition to that, click on the little round circle that's got my face in it, and that'll give you a chance to subscribe. And I'd love to hear your comments. Folks, thank you very much. I'm glad I spent my time with you today, and I will see you next time.